one.
Hello guys, welcome to another DW Live show with me, Neil Thompson, and my good friend and colleague Dom. How are you, Dom?
I'm very well. Oh God, I just did double thumbs up. I felt like a loser already. Oh, again.
Yeah, hang on, you can talk. I've just been trying to do the Rubik's Cube.
How did this happen?
I don't know. What happened to us, Dom?
It's the last minute stage fright.
Anyway, listen, so we are here for show number 30. Wow, I feel like we should have had a cake or something for show number 30, don't you?
I know. 30 episodes, Neil.
I know, we're 30 today. And I'm very delighted to have Sam Allen on the show today. Sam, we want to get Sam on the show for ages because I've worked with Sam a couple of times, but was it just the once? But she's amazing, and you guys are going to learn a lot from some of the tips that Sam's going to share with you. About hosting events and all the little tips and hints and things to look out for. So we're hoping to see this as a bit of a surgery as well. So you can ask Sam.
Sorry, I'm just going to jump in because either you or Sam has got the stream playing in the background, and it would be very nice if you could turn that down, please.
Not guilty, Your Honor.
Okay.
Sam, back in the class. So as usual, we're live on YouTube and LinkedIn, and what are we on? Twitter,
LinkedIn, Twitter. Actually, I think we're on Twitter today. Yeah, we are on Twitter today. So LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, and the YouTube one I always say is really important because that's how Neil continues to spread the reach of the Delegate Wranglers. So do go find him on at the Delegate Wranglers, which you can see on the screen below right now. Do go subscribe. Every episode that we put out of DW Live is out there for people to see, for people to use. I still speak probably at least once or twice a week to people that go right back to the beginning and start again, and they've watched pretty much all of them all the way through. But they are all on YouTube, so share them out with friends, colleagues, because there's been some really, really useful, worthwhile, and we like to think entertaining sessions.
The more people, and guys, the more people are watching, the more we're able to grow and bring you more and more shows, and keep this going further, and onwards and upwards. So we appreciate following us on there, and also on Instagram as well. It's really really useful for us. So yes. Anyway, Dom,
everywhere.
So we have got. I'm not sure if you're ready. We have got a what caught our eye this week.
Oh, we do.
Which is a very, very cool thing.
I haven't seen this either because you only sent it to me a short time ago. I've not seen it. So
it's very cool. It's very cool. You're going to love it. It's a really great video from Phil Healy from Distinct Solution. And what they've done is basically turn one of their venues into they call it the live barn.
Yeah.
So it's very, very cool. And I'll just let the video do the talking because it's a really cool video. Thanks to Phil for sending it in as well.
And so this is What's Caught Our Eye.
So guys, there we have it. I hope you enjoyed that that video. It's a fantastic place, isn't it, Dom? What do you think of that?
That looks like a really cool venue, which answers a couple of questions that I was literally asked by a client on my way back to the office a short time ago. So I will be in touch with you, people.
And Phil, just to say, if that comes through, my usual commission rates are 10-15%, something along that region.
Yeah, no problem. I'm sure we can do that.
Anyway.
My camera froze just now. I was doing that sort of pose, and I think my camera froze. So if that was the case, I apologise.
You're pouting.
Yeah, I just looked down. I thought, oh God.
So anyway, thanks to everybody for tuning in on YouTube and in the chat room on the Facebook page. Do you want to give a few
people?
Yeah.
Okay, well, you get ready on YouTube. If you are watching on LinkedIn, on YouTube, on Twitter, or on Facebook, then we will do some shout outs right now. So first of all, to Michelle Flynn, good afternoon. Anika, nice to have you back. She said, hello, everyone. Sorry I was away for the last 2 shows. Felt strange missing these. Good to be back. The most watched viewer? No, most viewer watched. I'm not sure what it makes you, but hello. Denise, nice to see you. Charlie Jacket, hi. Sam says hi. You're going to be with us in just a moment. Judith, nice to see you, Judith. Donna, Shirley, Candy, Mia Butler. Good afternoon, Mia. Actually, I saw our social media lady put out the episode with Mia a couple of weeks ago as a little bit of a throwback. Go look at that. It was really good. Sarah Matthews, Fiona Chappell, Donna Aberley, AM Destination Sardinia says, wow, what an intro. Is that an intro to my double thumbs up or the intro to the video we just played? I'm hoping it's the latter. Johanna Schmeichel, hello from Vienna again. Good afternoon, Johanna. How are you? Liz Seaton, love the intro. Ellen Kerr, Liz again, love the intro. Which intro? The intro to the show or to the video that we just played? I like to think we're putting on a bit of a show. On YouTube.
Yes, people on YouTube, you just caught me on the hoof. So, yeah, we got Dawn Kipping. Hello, Dawn is calling from Pays de la Loire in France.
Glad you got that one.
Yeah, this could be someone I think who may know you, Sam. Joyce Lockhoven. Give you a clap. David Phillips as well. But we've got about 25 people watching over on YouTube. Please send us in any questions or any comments, and we'll try and get them to Sam. So.
No one's commenting on LinkedIn, and I can see people watching. So if you are on LinkedIn, you're probably just sitting in the background watching. You put it on in the background. Do say hello. Natasha Lyle is probably there. I'm going to take a guess she's watching, so I'll say hello. Anyway, carry on.
Yeah. So without any further ado, I am going to introduce you to Sam. But before I do, I'm going to embarrass her and say how amazing she is at her job of emceeing and presenting and hosting.
Holding it in my hands right now.
Having been the victim of one of her panels, she was amazing, basically, and just controlled the whole conversation and challenged everybody. And I'll give you a little tip: if you're ever in the audience when Sam's there, beware, because she could come for you and get you and challenge you and engage you in the show in a good way. So
near to blushing there, Neil. Let's just.
I know. Well, it's all true. Anyway, without any further ado,
let's bring her on the screen. Good afternoon.
Hi, Sam.
Hi, guys. Hi, everybody. How are you doing?
We're all right. How's everybody? I guess you mean that to everybody there out there. They're all
good. I mean to everybody. I don't worry about you two. I just want to know. Right. So lovely seeing those names of people. That's the one thing as a moderator with some of these wonderful conference platforms that you miss knowing who's online. So as you were reading out those shout outs, big heart to all those lovely people. You know who you are. Love you all. Miss you all. Love working with you all.
Yes. Actually, Sam, before I ask you to introduce yourself, but I guess that's just made me think that must be a thing that's difficult to do when you're not doing it in person. You can't see the reaction of people. It's quite difficult. You can only see the panel. You can't see the audience. So it's a slightly difficult thing, isn't it? I've never really thought of that, but I guess it's true.
Yeah. Visualization is a really good thing. If anybody does that, tip number 1, if you do meditating, visualization, it's there. and, you know, do something really early on so that you can see at least, you know, interaction, because interaction is what, you know, gives you that dopamine and that oxytocin release. So yeah, that's the way to go. Look, we're already starting the tips. We haven't even started.
The tips, I know. Anyway,
Matt, before the hotly awaited tips.
I know. I wanted to ask you, like, how you got into doing what you do, Sam. You know, originally, do you come from, you know, an events background, and tell us a bit about your journey to where you are so far.
I'll try and go through that bit really quickly. And I have to say to everybody, I'm going to say sorry straight away. I'm so used to being the interviewer, not the interviewee. So I'm getting a taste of my own medicine, which is probably really good. But for the first time in a little while, I feel a little bit out of my comfort zone. So make sure there's loads of questions for me, because talking about myself isn't what we do as MCs and moderators. So yes, I think a lot of people may know my background is in events, which is handy to be a moderator because I understand production, understand stage management already, understand how a flow goes. So yeah, that was what I was doing. I was consulting with venues. Life was okay. I think this job was there waiting in the scenes for the right moment. I did a little course in mastering moderation. So shout out to Masters in Moderation. Back in 2014, as you know, as a victim, as you said, Neil, of one of my panels, I was a volunteer. You always ask a busy person, volunteer to moderate a series of panels. As my role as MPI UK and Ireland chair, I was moderating, facilitating events there. So it was all pointing towards this career, but I was clearly going, no, I'm not listening, as we do. And eventually I was persuaded to buy samallen.com. I was persuaded to go and do an actual real moderating job for a pharmaceutical company in Basel. And I had the most incredible experience. It was the biggest high to be a part of something where I could connect the speakers with the content to create something that really can change the world. And from there, I found my drug, started in 2019 professionally. The world's been incredible, traveling, working with some of the lovely people on Facebook. And then obviously the world slightly changed in March this year.
Yeah.
So yeah, we just in a nutshell, as we all know, when you're faced with, it was a fantastic year for me in terms of bookings. I was booked out till November. The world fell apart as it has done for everyone. And I wish everybody well, 100%. That's most important. Wish you and yours really, really, really well. But I, you know, put my big girl pants on after 2 weeks of drinking gin and chocolate and feeling sorry for myself. Retrained, did an online event management course with Joyce, who you shouted out.
Right.
And worked with my clients. Candy's one of those. So hi, Candy. We produced end-to-end our first conference back in, I think it was June. And the rest, they say, is history. And I'm absolutely, loving this new world, as weird as it is.
So can you remember your going back to that first job that you did? Can you remember, you know, how that felt in the lead up to it? I've still got notes from, because I come from an event management background, so I've still got my first checklist of things from my first event back in the late 90s. And oh my God, it's like 3 pages longer, and it's literally like, have I got train tickets in pocket? Have I got wallet? Have I, you know, like, it's literally, I mean, can you remember what that feeling was like? And I guess it was a massive high at the end of it, like you said.
Well, I told them I couldn't do it. So for a long time, I just kept on saying, no, I'm not going to do it. I can only do moderating in the event industry because that's all I know about. And they said, but you know about how to connect and engage people. And I said, yeah, but I don't. I said, what's the conference on? And they said, small cell lung cancer, I believe it was. And I said, I know nothing about that. No. So then I completely and utterly over-prepared. But that's still my mantra. I still over-prepare because I think it's better to be preparing to fail rather than failing to prepare. I tried to learn every single acronym that I could, which, as you can imagine, is quite impossible. Yeah. And when everything went wrong, that was probably the best baptism of fire. The technology let us down temporarily, and I had to think on my feet, which is something that we all do as event professionals anyway.
Yeah.
And from that point where you can pick something up, changing it around, see the reaction from your stakeholders, that's the drug. And yes, I know it was good, because if you've ever been to the EasyJet pen in Basel Airport, really isn't sexy. I'm sitting there with a gross cup of tea. And I could have been in Claridge's drinking champagne because that was the feeling I had. I'm like, okay, if this makes this sexy, this is the career for me.
Were you in the speedy boarding pen there at Basel Airport? I
don't even know if I was even speedy boarding. That's how sad that was then. Yeah.
There's nothing worse in life than being in the speedy boarding pen and everybody else isn't, and they're all just looking at you.
That's if you go to Amsterdam, and I'm sure our fellow friends from the Netherlands, they'll know that you walk past the massive queue to come out of Amsterdam at Schiphol in speedy boarding. Yeah. And I'm surprised that I haven't been spat at because, yeah, I know that feeling well from that airport.
It's so funny.
Yeah, when you're talking about there's nothing worse, like there's quite a lot worse, right?
Yeah,
but we do love a good event prof. Let's go. That's nostalgia, isn't it?
Yeah, got loads of those. I got loads of travel stories to tell you. So yeah, I mean, I admire you as well doing. You said it was a pharmaceutical event, Sam. Your first one.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, I come from pharma background, event management background. There's so many acronyms in that. I mean, and just going on to like some of the things that you're going to talk about, what kind of preparation did you have to do for that? Because that is like a totally different, sometimes those guys are speaking in a different language. Even though it's English, it sounds like a different language because of what they're talking about. That must have been so tough to, to be able to adapt to that and other events, I guess, that you do, because it's not just meeting events, is it? You do everything.
Yeah, if I had a specialism, I would say it's probably in healthcare and pharma, just by nature of what happens when you're a good MC or moderator, that somebody in the audience asks you to come and MC or moderate their event. So I'm lucky in that respect. But also, I MC for Saudi Railway Forum, so engineering, finance. I think the role of an MC and a moderator is the most super important thing is to listen and to be able to link and to be briefed. You can't be, as an external moderator, the subject expert. That's where you would get your internal moderators, and then someone like me could come and help them with that. But in terms of the subject matter, it's understanding body language, it's understanding the briefing, it's meeting those people, preparing. I've had to do a panel where I actually haven't been able to hear one of the speakers, and I haven't been able to communicate that to the team because of a whole. That's another story. But again, via body language, being able to link those, making sure that you're asking the questions of the panel in the right term, and using your audience. I mean, this is the whole thing. It's all about, I'm geeky about participation. So if I can sense and feel the audience, if I see online that there's a lack of chat, those are little tips and tricks that with experience you pick up.
You pick up, yeah. I always think people like yourself make it look easy, but it's not easy at all.
Yeah, well, that's our job, really. It is not easy, and it's actually so much harder online. And I didn't think it would be. But it is, and that whole thing about not being with your behind the scenes team. We just had that conversation. I just said to Dom, what happens if something goes wrong? And he absolutely, as he's a legend, said nothing will go wrong. But it's those things that when something does, it's not having that person right there, and so you have to manage it. And that's where the last thing that we say is hire someone who's a professional who's doing this week in, week out, because it really is. It's not just about looking into the camera, it's about all the other things that are going on whilst you've got somebody in your ear, whilst the WhatsApp's going, whilst the technology's going down, whilst the speaker may not be interacting with you, whilst. And that's, it's tough, but it's great.
Yeah. Go on, Dom, sorry, you're going to say?
No, it's fine. No, it's absolutely fine. Carry
on.
I
was going to say exactly about that, about, hiring a professional. It's one thing that's come out of, I think, of this, the online world, and particularly as well for you, Dom, you can try and have a go at doing these things yourself, but imagine me trying to run this show.
Well, let's tell the brief story, shall we? There was a moment a few weeks ago where I wasn't sure I was going to be able to do the show, and in actual fact we ended up moving it. So thinking that we were going to stick to the same time and Neil was going to take it away himself, I supplied a platform and I gave a whole list of instructions which were as simple as they could possibly be.
I kind of say when I was on after about page 5 of these instructions, I kind of thought this might be too much for me to do and do the show as well.
It's one of those things. It's just none of this is particularly difficult for us anymore, but it's all we're doing. And you know, even though this is all we're doing, technology catches you out every now and again. It throws up these horrible curveballs that you just either can't foresee, that you can't predict, and you have to fight your way out of it. And sometimes that is a fight.
I'm going to ask
You'll know that, won't you, Sam?
I'm going to ask Sam later if there's any. There must have been some mad things that have happened to her, so you can keep that.
You might need to wait till my book comes out.
Oh, really? Are you on here to plug? I didn't realize that was the thing.
Oh no, I haven't got time to write a book. No, but we should write one. We should write one, shouldn't we?
Oh,
the event industry. We could bring it together. The absolute crazy disasters of what's going on.
I could write one after 2 weeks alone, Sam.
Yeah. So just moving on to kind of the online, how you've had to adapt to online, you know, events, and you said that you did this course and things. Can you tell us the kind of things that taught you, you know, and I know one of the things that we were going to talk about was like top tips to make the keynote and things like this. So can you give us a brief explanation of how, you know, how you've had to adapt to that?
Well, I think, a brief is not my middle name, but I'm going to try. I actually wrote notes, which my clients and friends online will know I am a bit geeky like that. There's no right or wrong in terms of what's happening. And I've seen on, you know, our lovely Delegate Wranglers group, people saying, how long should a meeting be? How long should a session be? Should we cut it down? Should we condense it in terms of speakers? It's all about, and I have to give you sort of the sign, I don't know if you can see that, but how does your event create value? You know, the most important thing is, what's the why? What do your participants want? What's the behavior change that you want to create from this activity? And start with the why, you know, good old Simon Sinek, and certainly the why, you know, what you're doing in terms of that event. Because if the content is great and you're connecting with your participants, then don't worry about how long that content is. What I would say is that there's some research coming out. I'm lucky enough, again, to be jumping into sessions where I'm hearing some research coming out from the States, you know, in terms of sort of that optimum in virtual at the moment, sort of 90 minutes to 2 hours. Dom, disagree with me if you don't. When you're looking at your keynote, I think it's you know, remembering that 45 minutes of one-way traffic learning is just a webinar. You're not probably going to engage your audience so much. So if you've got that content that needs to come through, why not break up that session? That's an idea. So every sort of 10, 15 minutes break up. Maybe it's if you've got enough time to do a breakout and a discussion piece, but it could be conversation and input. So write in the chat, what do you think about this? Have a question slide so that people can feel involved. It also cements a little bit of learning. So on a neuroscience point of view, we know that polling works. You may have some today, who knows?
I'm trying. Looking at it now.
Questions, and actually having that time to sort of make sure that you're bringing the audience with you. And again, with a keynote, and this is really important, is how slides are designed. Talk to your production people and understand where you're going to, you know, where you're going to be as the speaker. Are you in a top little corner? Are you at the bottom? Are you side by side? Make your slides simple. We're not all looking at a fantastic giant LED screen in a beautiful venue at the moment. So in terms of those slides, and there are really clever ways, and I'm sure, Dom, you probably know some sort of tips and tricks. There's some really slick ways of making the presentations dynamic, visual, a little less full of words and a bit more full of meaning. What do you think?
It's really interesting. Obviously, we've seen some, to a varying degree, we've seen successful presentations and some not so successful presentations in terms of the format of the slides. Particularly, we had a really great example a couple of weeks ago on an event where the slides had actually been designed by a graphic designer, by the company behind him, not just by him last minute on his laptop. And you know, there was such a huge noticeable difference in the quality of that presentation, not just in terms of his delivery, but actually people's ability to read and engage with the slides, because they were beautifully designed and they looked great. And it's probably one of those pieces of detail that gets overlooked in some respects, because you just think, oh, such and such is going to do their presentation, they'll send it to us the night before, or I'll do it morning of. But actually, someone that's thought about it or had that thought about it made such a huge difference to the whole presentation of that hour that he was on.
I work with an incredible lady called Miriam Staley. I don't know if she's watching or joining us at the moment, and she works with speakers, and she has just spent the last 6 months, I mean, I won't say mastering these sites, but actually looking at it from the speaker point of view and ensuring that that content works for both the speaker, because, you know, this is tough. I put out a tip today, you know, it's tough for speakers. You're in a room by yourself. Yeah. There's no buzz, there's no engagement. Yeah. You're going to have to kick out the kids, kick out the dog, and you're looking at this green light for the best part of whatever that time is. Yeah. It's not normal. So, you know, actually seeing something that's dynamic for your speaker as well, so that they can feel engaged and positive, they can see a reaction from your participants, is really, really important.
Yeah, it's so tough, isn't it? I think it's one of the hardest things that, you know, me and Dom do this, and we're lucky though. We've got this, you know, an audience of people talking, and we can see the comments, you know, coming in on the Facebook group. So it's really good for that. But I think it must be hard for some people who just don't even see that at all. They just see the 4 presenters that they might be on a panel with, and that's it. Or you could just be on your own. And I think it's so difficult to not make it just a webinar, like you said earlier. Do you agree, Dom?
And that's why you have to sort of shift that tech, shift that mindset, and give those speakers and online presenters that little extra bit of support, which is why working with people like Dom, the professionals, who can support and do it earlier rather than later.
But also thinking about the program, and this comes back a little bit to what Sasha was talking about a few weeks ago when we did that event, when we did that show a couple of weeks ago with Sasha Martin, with Sasha Neal, sorry, was that whole design of the program. And again, I hope you don't mind me saying, I'm fairly certain he'll watch at some point, but there's a guy in the group called Rahul who runs a company called the Science and Information Organization. We're very fortunate that they're one of our clients, and we did an event for them a couple of weeks ago, actually in the same event where the really nice slides were, but in a different session. The moderator, MC, and the presenter had agreed in advance the point at which the MC would come into the screen midway through the presentation and talk direct to the audience and take a brief Q&A, and also run polling for the presenter. So it was very much a two-way thing. And then it was only maybe 4 or 5 minutes long, that particular session or that particular interlude, but it was midway through the presentation. It gave an opportunity to do a brief bit of polling on some information that had just been presented. And then we took the MC out of the equation and the presenter carried on. And that happened twice over the course of the 45 minutes-ish that he was presenting. And it worked really, really well. And I'd like to see doing that.
Rahul is a smart man, and design and planning is critical. And, you know, anyone who's done, I've just done my certificate in event design. I'm just waiting to take the certification. But that's so important, because also we've got to remember that a lot of our speakers are subject content experts. Yeah. They may not be, you know, natural experts, and they're certainly not going to be natural in this environment. So use your moderator, use your MC to come in and do the, you know, it's not just the link presentation, it's the bits that your online presenter may not feel so comfortable with. It's hard to be looking here, then looking down at the chat, looking here, depending on which platform you're using. Let your speaker do the job that they're doing and let them focus on being awesome at that. Yes. Bring your moderator in to support the facilitation and engagement.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And I think as well, I've done a couple of panels where they've been really well rehearsed. So we've kind of had meetings before, like offline, you know, and then we've gone onto the platform and done a rehearsal on there live. And then it's really tough one, because we almost rehearsed nearly all the answers and the questions. So it was like, but you also want a little bit of kind of fluidity, don't you? You don't want it to seem too rehearsed. You need it to seem a bit natural. But I think a good balance of that is, you know, I just think the more rehearsals you do and the more practices you do, the easier it's going to be and the more relaxed you're going to be. And then it's just trying to make your answers and become across as natural, and for you to get that out of people, I guess. Is that your experience as well? Are you an advocate of a lot of rehearsal?
Ask my clients. They're watching. Yeah, rehearse. And I know, and I appreciate. I think one of the difficult things, and we're finding this with certain people, is that people are now are comfortable being on Zoom, having Zoom meetings or Microsoft Teams or a plethora of others. I'm not advocating one or the other at this point, as you haven't asked me to. But a meeting, as in a chat about what you're doing on a day-to-day basis, is different from an event and a conference. And so if you have speakers who say, or presenters or contributors, whoever they are, yeah, we're comfortable on Zoom, that's just an absolute no-no. And especially for a panel, because the challenge with a panel, like, you know, we've got here, and we're 3 reasonably, I would say, experienced, seasoned virtual speakers or presenters here, there's a delay. You can't change that delay, and sometimes it's lagging more than others. So in terms of trying to get that sort of, you know, that debate, that great feeling that you have when you've got people in a room, it's harder for your moderator because they're not seeing the full body language of anybody. So rehearsing, not necessarily the whole thing, but certainly getting to know each other, because also by nature, if we spend half an hour together, we start to understand each other's nuances. I understand, you know, I listen to what I'm seeing, that, you know, Dom's nodding. I know that when you're going to respond, and you just get it naturally. It's human nature. So the more you can bring a panel together, or we would do this, we'd huddle in a green room for half an hour and have a cup of coffee, or be at the bar for a glass of wine with our panelists, because the more they feel comfortable, the better the panel is going to be, whether that's in person or virtually. So I think it's, you know, it doesn't have to be a rehearsal end to end, but, you know, certainly giving them some tips. I sort of say use the pen.
Yeah, you would never, in most instances, I don't think, MC with a speaker or a group of panelists that you haven't met in advance and probably had a drink socially with the night before, maybe, and actually had the opportunity to start getting to know them. It just wouldn't happen in a live environment, and you have to apply the same to this. You've got to be comfortable with that person and be able to converse with them in a way beyond just, oh, I just met you, hello, are you going to present for us now?
Yeah.
You do, and you have to have a few rules of the road as well, because it is different on virtual. So I mean, even if it's just a, you know, again, for your moderator or your interviewer, I've done some pre-records, which is great. I'm happy with doing those as well. But, you know, give us 5 minutes just to get to know each other. You know, that's all, you know, if that's all they've got, but we do need that 5 minutes. And also it's that whole thing. I have a little pen, and this is my little tip, is, you know, if I'm wanting to interject, because again, I'd give the body language over, I've trained in that, but I can't do that so much on screen. So, you know, if the pen goes up, I just do a little tap, but I need to let my participants, my panelists or my interviewee know, but have some little prep rules on things like that. Got the pen. I saw it.
I've got the pen. Look, I'm in. All I was just going to add that I think Dom's just trying to make any excuse for us to go down the pub and have a drink. That's what he wants before.
Excuse me. No one needs an excuse for that.
No, it's funny though.
Small groups.
I was going to ask you about the panel discussion, because I think it's, having been on a few of these myself, me and Dom have done these where we've had 4 or 5 people on, and then I've been a part of some where there's been 4 or 5 people, and it is quite difficult thing to do, to get people to not talk over people, and to get, you know, so that people know that you need to make a point. I think it's a really difficult thing to do, a fluid thing. That's where we've had a few comments coming in. I'm sure Dom will run through them, but you know, a few comments coming in about that very thing. Rehearsal helps you with that, because then, you know, well, when you say that, I'll make this point, that kind of thing. That can help a little bit, can't it, without it seeming too rehearsed, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I'll jump in and say, yes, I think that's absolutely the case, but it can't come across too rehearsed. It needs to feel natural. Yeah,
absolutely. We've had, I was just going to say, we had a comment on here from James Hassler on YouTube saying it's all about the rehearsal. My experience of virtual moderation is that practice and rehearsal is much longer in the virtual world than in person. Do you agree with that, Sam, as well?
Oh, good grief. Yes, James, you and I need to have a drink, because I think it's amazing, because what we do as event professionals, we do everything on the day before. So we've got this captive audience, because all our stakeholders have all flown in, and we have a really intense day where production is setting up everything from the tech point of view, the venue setting up, we're rehearsing, we're script writing, we're revising, we're running through, and it's all done on that one day, because we've got that captive audience. Of course, people have got lives.
Yeah.
So we can't have that one day before where we can just do all of this rehearsal, although I'd kind of like that. So we have to have those interjected through those days, and then as James will say, as a virtual presenter, you have other stuff going on. But it is critical, and it's start putting those timelines in. And also I think the sort of it's non-negotiables I think we talked about, but sort of almost like a code of conduct. It's like, these are the expectations we have. If you're a speaker, you're coming on, you are the extension of the brand of the company, the organization, the association that you're representing, so not just your own. So I think we also need to be a bit more bold about what we say is acceptable or certainly is non-negotiable for presentations. As I said, meetings are very different things. Meetings are conferences, whatever you want to call it, but as in an internal versus an external, where we've got participants and attendees who are with us, and also sponsors and other stakeholders to consider.
So you mean in terms of the brief beforehand, giving people a really, really good, before you even get to the rehearsal stage, giving them a really good brief about what's expected of them, what they need to do, that kind of thing. Is that what you mean?
And also managing their expectations, that they are expected. I think my Tuesday tip today is, for the speaker to do this by themselves. Record yourself. Record yourself doing this. It's not difficult. A free Zoom account can do this. Just press record. Look at what you look at. It's a horrible thing seeing yourself when you're trying to do all of this stuff. I totally and utterly empathize. But record. We've got that time and ability to do it. If we're going to do this, let's do it really well.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's been like the elephant in the room for me and the delegate wranglers. I realized we had to move into doing live video and filming when we're at events and doing things. And it probably started with Dom. I'm going to embarrass him now. And coming onto our, meeting Dom, and then we started doing some live things together. We started going live from the shows that we were doing, the exhibitions, the meeting show and things like this. And we'd be going live and talking to people and interviewing people. And it's a horrible thing. It's a horrible thing to see yourself on camera, particularly if,
I think it would be fair to say that we might have got around to doing this show eventually, but I don't think you would have done it when you did it, was it not for lockdown? Because you and I had spoken about doing this or having you have a weekly show in the group for quite a long time before it actually came to fruition. But it was the fact that this was the way to engage your community, really. It was the way that you could stay relevant and stay in touch with people and provide information and value to people during what's been a pretty horrible time for the industry. But that takes a huge amount of learning. And I don't think you'd mind me saying, but I think we both know and recognize, and even I have to an extent, and I've come from doing this quite a lot in the past. But if you look back at some of those first shows, you've got more and more comfortable. Now you've accepted the fact that you're going to be on camera once a week and people are going to hear your voice once a week. You've come quite a long way since then.
I'm a pro. So you're saying I'm good or bad? I can't work.
I'm saying you've come a long way. I'm not saying good or bad.
I think that you've nailed it on the head. I think that's the whole thing, and I think that's the experience all our people watching are having, is that first of all, it's an alien experience, but we do need to still meet, we still need to connect, we still need to sell, we still need to learn, we need to share best practice, we need to swap knowledge, and we need to feel part of our communities, whichever sector we're in. So this is how we have to do this right now. So,
this isn't,
let's make it good.
Here, it's not going there, is it?
No.
Let's make it good. Let's make it professional.
Yeah.
This doesn't mean that it's going to take over the world and we're never going to meet again. But right now, this is a safe way. Please, anyone who's in the chat, please do shout out, because I've seen some great events. I've been part of some really incredible events where the response from the attendees is that they've loved being together. They've loved the content. They've loved networking. And that's what we want to do. And whilst we can all say it's not the same, no, it's not. It's different. But so is a shoe and a carrot, but we don't sort of talk about that, do we? That's a crazy analogy.
Right. So, well, I was going to ask some polls after figuring out how to do it last week. Somebody can't do it, and I think it's something technical I or Facebook have done. But one of the questions I was going to ask was, are virtual meetings here to stay? And well, Sam gave me this question to ask. Do you think virtual meetings are here to stay? Do you think? Yes, no, do you think it'll be a bit of both? Just if you guys want to just give us some feedback in the chat room, that would be great. We've also had some more comments on YouTube from James again. Sam, who said, I've always had that cup of tea with a cup of tea or coffee with that person beforehand. In the virtual, it always takes at least an hour to get to know people at least. The pen is great. Mine has been a temple touch. So he said, so we need one, Dom. We need one.
Can I just turn your mic off?
Yeah, that's the joy, is you could just mute him.
Just take everyone out. Yeah, and actually Jan said pen kind of like a talking stick. It's exactly like the talking stick. That's the point.
Yeah.
Chrissy said,
and it's a very easy visual that, doesn't have to mean anything to anyone except the people that, it's all about taking away the distraction from anything else. So that's quite important.
Yeah, absolutely. Chrissy said, rehearsal is everything. Donna Abley says there's been some great points, Sam. Ellen said, so glad we did. The sessions have been amazing. I think she's suggesting that she's glad that we started this show, Neil. Jack said, we've done that before, Neil, and that's why the facilitator is so important, to inform and engage the speakers in what's happening. Jack, I'm really sorry. I didn't see at what point that comment came in, so I don't know what you're referring to then. Apologies. But you also commented a little bit earlier that slide format's really important. And the new way on Zoom to have your presentation as your background can work great. It does. I'm not a massive fan of Zoom as a virtual event platform, but there are some features and functions that they've built out that I think are working really well. And I've seen people use the slide as your background really effectively, especially where they've obviously worked out where they were going to put themselves on the frame and
I haven't seen that yet.
Adjusted their slide recording it. It does work really nicely.
Yeah, that's really cool. So that leads us quite nicely on to, Sam, the next part of the discussion about your setup at home, and what you can do to kind of enhance that, that your environment that you're speaking in, and the kind of any good tips that you can share with us about that as well. I noticed the frog next to you, very important. Nearly as important as my
the problem for me, I don't have pets, and a lot of these things, everyone's sort of taking pictures of them with their dog, and it's like, well, it's what I've got. It's a frog.
Got a frog.
So
as everyone's
put it down.
One next to me as well.
I'm going to run through some of these, just if you've heard them before. Some of them will not be rocket science, so please forgive me, but I just thought I'd pull out half a dozen things that may hopefully be of use. It may not be rocket science to you, and you may think it's not rocket science to your speakers or your presenters, but it just might be. So I think we have to be a bit forgiving. Things that I would say are non-negotiable if I was an organizer. Be wired to the internet. The wonderful Ethernet cable. Dom is kissing me from afar. Yeah.
Please, people. This is a really hard one because people just think, oh, I've got a really good connection to Wi-Fi. Neil and I have had this conversation as well.
Yeah.
You can be sitting right next to your router and it will suddenly drop out. And it's not that it disconnects. You won't see it drop out completely, but Wi-Fi frequencies vary. And the way you avoid those varying is by connecting directly to your router. And it makes such a huge difference to the quality of the camera feed that's being sent, but more importantly, to the stability of the camera feed that's being sent. So I'll move on before I get on my
and also, just in terms of that, just, if they haven't got one, send one. It's £17, €17, $20, it's cheap as chips, and it will change your event, having that knowledge. It'll also make your production team very happy.
I bought a 15-meter cable following my conversation with Dom to whiz it around the room as a kind of short-term solution, which I've done, which is this is connected now. So every time I do that, which you can do. It's easy. People don't see what's behind the camera, so that's fine.
Speaking of what's behind the camera, I think that's super important, the layout and not having distractions. When you're a presenter, when you're producing and sharing content, you want the focus to be on you.
Yeah.
So think about, these, again, we don't need to talk about backgrounds. People have seen them. As little distraction behind you as possible is really important for a presenter. So please ask to see, this is again back to those rehearsals. There's a rehearsal, and then there's also the tech rehearsal and actually looking at the space they're in. And please from a production point of view, let people know if you're expecting that green screen setup, because or not having that green screen set up, because I've had a situation where the presenter was thinking that he was going to have his lovely Zoom background. That wasn't the platform we were working on. And he was in a very awkward position because everything in his room was, it was just awkward. I won't go into detail, but it was awkward. Yeah. So really think about it. Because again, if you're presenting, this is a really important thing. This is an experience for your participants. Don't have big posters up. I've seen and heard some horror stories where people are spending the whole of the session trying to figure out what the word is or what the books are. And yeah. And then just on that, it's on distractions. We lose 50% of people's engagement when they switch online. So we've got to eliminate as many distractions as we can. If you are presenting, please get rid of your distractions. And I don't mean in a legal sense, but please get rid of the kids. Please get rid of the dog. It's okay on a call. It's not okay when you're in a room. You wouldn't have them on stage with you. So what you would have on stage is not an awful lot. Remember, that's what you'd want in your room. So, let the dogs out, let the kids out, get a doggy daycare, but, minimize the distractions. Really think about that from your audience point of view, that they're only watching on a small screen. So that's super important.
Quick question, Sam. So practical question. If you were, I know you're on the show with us now, but if you were presenting and the slides were really, what you were talking about was really massively important to the audience who've maybe paid to be there. You're saying that, like your background now, would you make it that more plain? Would you have it as a plain backdrop and hardly anything? Yeah. Just trying to give people a practical tip that they might want to take away with them. Because
a white wall is as good as anything else. A white wall, I have as you'd imagine, as a professional MC, I have an entire studio set up. You're seeing Sam at home today. You're in my home, everybody, because it's all my friends and my lovely, lovely people out there. But, again, that's a question that you need to be asking as an organizer is what's that environment that you're trying to create? The same as you would when you're designing a stage set. Some clients want this. So I did a conference last week. We were super relaxed. It was the community feel they wanted. She wanted my at home, but, white. Just a simple white background, just so that the focus is there on you. It's, it doesn't have to be, none of it has to be complex. It's not expensive. It just takes a bit of time to sort of think about it.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. Anything to add, Dom?
No, not on that.
Okay.
Yes, the next one is lights, camera, and action, Dom.
We could go through all of this in so much detail, but you just covered it.
Yeah. So I think the other thing is invest your teeny tiny amount of money in light, good light. Again, back to this focus. What's the focus? It's on the speaker. None of this is expensive. Pick up a ring light. It's the best thing, or send a ring light to your speakers. Again, it'll cost you less than 20 euros, 20 pounds, 20 US dollars. I can't carry on with currency. We're not here all day. But get a ring light. I mean, send out. You'd invest in this technology if we were in a venue. So again, you really need to look at it. And a ring light is such an easy thing. Cameras, Dom and I probably have similar opinions. I think if you're presenting, you should be getting an HD camera because everybody's watching in HD. Again, you can buy your speakers an HD camera. It's not huge money, or ask them. Again, if they're a professional speaker, it would do them well to invest.
I don't know if you've looked, it's actually not that. It's not that easy to get HD cameras right now, not at a semi-decent price. But I know right at the beginning of lockdown, we did a job for somebody, and the client was really impressed with one of the webcams that have been used by one of his colleagues. So he wanted to buy everyone on his team one of these webcams, and he bought about 110 of them from Amazon. And I don't actually think they've had them in stock since.
Right.
So it's his fault.
It was, but it makes a huge difference. And I'm going to extend the camera part, if you don't mind, a little bit, Sam. And I might be skipping ahead.
Yeah.
But if you're presenting, if you spent money putting a camera in place, look at it. Your audience aren't where your slides are; they're there. And one of the things that I've noticed, and other people at home, I hope, will have noticed, that I tend to, as much as possible, bearing in mind I've got other things going on here as well, but I tend to look at my screen, my camera directly in front of me here. The screen that Sam and Neil can see me on is down here, which is where my slides will be as a presenter, and my production kit's over here. But that's where you are. And Sam, I haven't noticed you haven't looked down at all. You're just looking straight forward at your camera the whole time, probably taking the old cursory glance at us. But engaging with the audience, you don't do that by looking at your slides down there and presenting to yourself. Your audience is here. So get yourself set up in a point where you can take the odd look at your slides if you're presenting, but primarily engage with the audience by looking at them.
Just advise your speakers and presenters on that is to stick. I just went and glanced. I was looking for a post-it note, but I haven't got one handy. Stick a post-it note by the camera.
Yeah,
totally.
It's okay for me, Dom, because I do this every week. This is my job, to be looking and engaging.
Yeah.
Remember that most people are using a laptop as a laptop.
Absolutely.
So we have to remind them, and the best way is to stick a little, just ask them, stick a post-it note on the camera, wherever your camera is on your machine.
We've actually got a speaking document that we send out, and it's got a photo that I took of a post-it note with an arrow drawing up camera, just to make sure you're looking in the right place. That's still in the document that we send out to clients.
I've got another.
It's also really hard because there's a common decency thing as well that we have to remember. And again, it's reminding. Yeah. Sticking this in your speaker briefing document, sticking it in and making sure you've had your MC briefing with your with your speakers. But it is really hard because my behavior is to look you both in the eye. Yeah. When I'm on a panel as a panelist, it's to look you in the eye and to respond to you. That's just human behavior. And we're asking humans to do something completely different. Yeah. And I think we have to just recognize that and highlight it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. My other top tip as well is if you're using a laptop and you're using the webcam on your laptop, you can actually put your presentation, your words in front of the actual kind of screen below the camera. You can lean it on there, and then you're not looking down as much as Don was saying there. You can just lean it on, as long as it doesn't cover your camera. You don't really need to see yourself, and sometimes you put yourself off when you're looking at yourself. Yeah. Was that just me? Maybe that's just me.
No, I think that's a really good idea.
I'm going to pick up the questions because Donna's just said, what brand webcam would you recommend? Donna, that's a really hard one because there's hundreds of brands out there. However,
go for some budgets, Dom. Go for some like low budget, mid budget ish.
In all honesty, there's a couple on Amazon that sit at about 25-30 quid mark. As long as they're HD, they're probably going to be okay. They're not going to be the top end. You're starting to get to top end when you spend, or higher end certainly, when you're spending 80, 90, 100 pounds on a webcam. Yeah. In that regard, you probably want to be going for something like a Logitech C900 or 922, I think it is. That's what
this face is on.
Oh, is it really?
What's that one?
Yeah.
What's it called? What's it called again, Tom?
C922 or C900?
Right.
Yeah.
It's something like
I need one.
I'm going to ask your opinion on this. I've got my own immediate response to this. Sam, Jan has asked, what about a teleprompter?
Whoa,
Jan, that is a very, very good question. From a moderator point of view, no, it's off-putting because the moderator MC, we're very much the link. We've got to respond to what's going on live. I've done teleprompting from an MC point of view for awards, and I think probably that I'm sure my client wouldn't say it, but I felt quite fake. For a presenter, I think it's tough, and I think we are, as I said, remember from the get-go, we're losing 50% of engagement. There's a whole world of internet for people to be looking at whilst you're speaking as a presenter. I think if it's a teleprompter, you're going to be probably less comfortable with engaging with the audience. It's a tricky one because you've got some people who can do it really, really well. If you're going to do it, I'd want to be feeling comfortable, Jan, that it looks and feels natural from a participant point of view.
Yeah.
Dom?
I think I kind of agree in some way. My general rule with teleprompters is unless you know what you're doing, unless you've used it, unless you are absolutely comfortable with it, don't think it's the fix-all to everything, because it takes practice. Finding your speaking pace for a teleprompter takes an awful lot of time. It's not just a case of sitting down, reading a script and saying, oh no, that'll be okay, because you will find points in that script where you suddenly need the teleprompter to go slower or faster, and any of the home controlled stuff doesn't necessarily give you that huge ability to change it. Equally though,
and if you've got the
reading a
production team
teleprompter-
slowing it down,
absolutely, reading a teleprompter takes practice.
Yeah.
It's just difficult, and unless someone's done it before, I would say not.
And quite hard to make it sound natural as well, because you end up you're literally reading things.
Yeah.
So you know,
as Dom says, it's that flow. And I think if you work with the teleprompter in studio, and again, there are some brilliantly experienced people who do that in studio, but you do have the team behind you slowing it down. And the worst thing that can happen, you know, is losing your way in a presentation when you're on your own with no support because of a teleprompter. So I think we're in agreement, guys.
Yeah.
Sorry, Jan.
There's a couple more questions as well. One nice comment from Miguel. Hi, Miguel. I like on this show how the speaker is spotlighted often, which is all down to Dom there. So Dom is controlling that. So he'll be just showcasing, you know, Sam when she's speaking, or myself or Dom, or you know, just two of us together. And I think that's a really good point, Miguel. We take it for granted with this show, but Dom's doing this all the time, constantly. And I think you'll probably agree, Sam. Anything like that makes your presentations and your interactions more engaging, doesn't it? Much more than just being the three or four of you on all the time, which sometimes you can't help it, I guess, with some. But if you can, try and work with somebody who can do that, because it's really, really cool. Cool.
It makes a big difference, but it actually makes a bigger difference. Not so much when we're talking just as a panel of three as we are right now, although it does help, especially when I've done it a few times when Sam's been talking to a specific point. She's the focus and she needs to be the focus. So we make her the focus by taking her full screen. But it's exactly the same and significantly more important with presentations to slides. That either having them side by side so that you can see where the speaker's kind of talking around the theme, you have the speaker side by side. When they're talking to a specific point that doesn't need the slides, you take them full screen. And when they're talking to a specific point in the slides, that the slide is really the content and what matters, whether it's data or graphs, stuff like that, you take that full screen. But it's picking the point to transition between the two or the three views, and that's why we do the job that we do.
So Sam, I guess you're going to come onto sound as well, microphones. I'm not even going to ask Dom, because Dom's got the best sound setup in the world, and he makes everybody else sound like puny, and he sounds like Darth Vader or somebody. But, how important is that as well to your setup?
I think the key things are, if you can hear me, you can see me, and I'm creating content that's engaging, and I'm engaging back with you, and I'm looking into that camera, you know, yeah, it is important. Again, I think Don will agree. I mean, I've invested in this home studio, and I think if you go into my social, you'll see videos so I'm showing people how it's set up and how simple it is to do. But ultimately, I'm still in my home studio. I'm not in the BBC or Sky or in a venue at this moment, which is, you know, protected for sound.
Yeah.
I'm still here. I'm doing everything I can. I have carpets. I have little stuff on the wall. The blinds are down just to try and keep that sound in. But ultimately, you know, we're okay by saying our speakers are at home, but we do need to hear them. And so to avoid that distraction, I think that, you know, it's good. I'm on AirPods, and I'm on the higher, what do you call them, higher spec, because they're noise cancelling. So for me, it's really important so that I can hear what's going on at the event. So, and I did quite a bit of research, but I've got a microphone. And again, you could go out, guys, and spend a flipping fortune on all of this stuff. And then you've got to sort of plug it in, and there may be latency issues. And I'm feeling comfortable with the AirPods sound. I hope I sound okay for you guys. Over to you, Dom.
You wouldn't know. I saw briefly just now, because I was trying to work out where your mic was. I couldn't work out if you had an overhead shotgun mic. I couldn't work out I didn't think you were in a lapel. And then I saw briefly the AirPod, and they sound really good. I love the sound of the AirPods. We've got mics. We got a ton of mics here, and I really like the sound of this one for my own voice, and it just happens to fit with all of the kit. But we've got lapel mics I've used, and I have also used AirPods for this show. I'm going to just say one thing on audio, which is, if you look at all of the research that's done, particularly on live streaming and live video, people will forgive a poor video quality. they don't forgive poor audio quality.
True.
So that audio side is so important. And that, if for my money, if it's a choice currently between buying a webcam and a mic, buy a mic first.
Yep.
And that question,
I think also that.
Yeah.
I think that's a super.
Sorry.
I completely and utterly agree in terms of sound. When you can't be heard, it's a real challenge. And I also would say, as a tip, depending on the platform, and I don't know whether this is just my fortune or misfortune, Dom, but depending on the platform, sometimes, or depending on what's happening, the sound might be different. So I also operate from a studio space, and in there, the microphone. So I've got a podcast, a good microphone that works really well in that space. I've tried it here. It doesn't seem to work so well. So again, this is why, please make sure wherever your speakers are for rehearsal, that is where they're going to be for presentation. Massively important. Don't let them change. If they are changing, you go through that same process again. It's really worth your while.
Yeah, it is, absolutely.
Cool. So anything else on that, Sam? Because I know we're kind of coming close to wrapping up, and I know there's one more subject that we want to cover, but anything else on the setup at home or anything?
Oh, I could talk all day, and I do encourage people to get in touch. Like Dom and I, it's just like, I could just geek out, and I never thought I was. And if you knew me before COVID, do not make a comment. But I didn't realize I was such a geek about this stuff. I was like, let's just share and have a look at each other's ring lights, shall we? Who knew that was going to be a phrase?
It wasn't until you just said it.
Yeah.
The new chat-up line for 2020. Can I see your ring light?
Yeah, we need a t-shirt with that on.
You're not Sam. You're coming this way.
Right, come on. We've got more tips to fit in. Come on.
The last one we want to talk about, we touched on it earlier, is things that could possibly go wrong. What's your experience of things that generally go wrong on I mean, me and Dom could write a book on this, but what things generally go wrong, with people, or what can go wrong that you can try and preempt, beforehand? There's lots of obvious.
It's a big topic. We haven't got another hour, but my clients will know whenever I was just about to go onto stage, we just have that last second briefing, the exciting bit, and my last words to my clients were always like, what can go wrong? Yeah. And I bet they're all nodding and laughing. And we used to say it as a big joke, because like, come on, it's all going to be fine. Almost inevitably, something will go wrong because of the nature of what we're doing. We don't have people in one room. We don't have people on the same internet. We don't have people with the same audio. 1,000,001 things can go wrong. There are things that you can do. Again, they may sound really simple. Make sure that your speakers are on a comms channel. There are ones out there like Unity Telecoms that you subscribe to, which is almost like a radio mic. And so you can change the channels for your speakers, your production, your back of house, but make sure you've got those back channels. It could be as simple as WhatsApp. It's harder if there's lots of WhatsApp group for your moderator, but a professional one, we deal with that. Make sure they've got a back channel that they can speak to your team behind the scenes, production, and you as the organizer.
That makes such
backup.
That makes
back channels are important.
Oh, huge. And I'm a huge advocate for Unity. We started using it probably 5-6 months ago. It's such a great system. We've got the cloud-based version at the moment, but I'm actually going to do a full install of it later in the year, because it gives so many other features and advantages. If you are producing remote events, or you are a producer away from your remote MC, your remote guests, get your production team, the whole production team, on something like Unity Intercom. It's brilliant, and you won't regret it.
Do you want to give us a quick what does it do in a nutshell?
It's basically, if you imagine being at a live show and everyone's wearing headsets and they're on comms, and you've got your show caller and you've got your producer and you've got your visual guy, they will all be wearing headsets. It's basically a remote version of that works through. I will bring it up on my screen very quickly.
Yeah, it's on an app.
Yeah,
we'll put a link on the wrap up, Dom. So
all my organizer friends using it love it.
It allows you to create 6 channels of talk, 6 channels of listen, and you can put various groups and people into various channels. And it's just superb. Push to talk, or amazing.
You'd think we'd rehearse this. I mean, honestly, we're not working for Unity Telecom, but that's just we didn't rehearse this. But that back channel is that back channel is critical. I think Dom, you'll probably hopefully agree as well. If we're doing live recording and I'm if we're doing live and I am pro live because that's what we want all want to engage, have a backup. So get that recording if you can from your speaker, because sometimes just stuff happens. You know, who knew a couple of weeks ago half of Dallas went down, and that's where we were streaming from. And then, you know, who knew that, you know, this happens in Tennessee because there was a tornado. You know, anything can happen that's out of our control with our speakers. And whilst Dom's team will be doing everything they can to get that speaker back up online, if they can't, let's keep that continuity for the speaker as well, because at least we can get the speaker back on to take a phone call and do phone chat or chat in the chat box. So we can facilitate those things going wrong. But if we've got a backup recording, then I think that would be a useful tip in terms of what can go wrong.
Yeah, very much.
Agree?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I've got
having been in the unfortunate position a couple of weeks ago where we had an unfortunate run over the course of an event of technical issues. Actually, all of the rehearsals that we did, all of the tech rehearsals, the tech tests where you sound check people, you mic check people, you check you can see, hear them, can they share their screen? For all that we'd done all of that with all of the speakers, we were in a situation where we couldn't get probably 3 or 4 of the speakers onto the platform sharing their screen, and it's an absolute nightmare if you've got speakers that have said everything will be fine, I'm not going to do a recording, I'm not going to give you a backup, I'm not going to send you my slides. Have a backup plan in that instance.
Yeah, even if it's like a video or something of, you know,
something you can cut to
something. Yeah, I guess so.
Just have that backup because it makes things very difficult. I've got two more things in terms of that. Have a critical friend as a presenter. I think if you can get a login for the show, that if you can ask as event organizers, have a critical friend. Again, this is from my wonderful friend Miriam, so that, you know, you guys are watching and doing all of those things, but suddenly if my hair goes over or I've got a booger or whatever, or something's behind my back or whatever it might be, it would be great for me to have another critical friend, even someone who's just watching and just sends you a WhatsApp to the speaker going, you look amazing, you know, rock. It makes a massive difference seeing that. And, you know, oh, your hair's wrong in the wrong position. Now, Dom's too busy to be telling me that my hair's just gone over my face. So ask for that login so that you can have that critical friend to support your speaker. It's almost like your sort of thumbs up agent at the sidelines. And the last thing for me is hire a professional to link in and be your MC, because if anything goes wrong, Dom knows that they can plug Sam or James or whoever it might be. No matter what's happening, I'm sitting here for the entire duration. If something goes down, you can plug me in. I will fill that channel and I will do it seamlessly for your participants, as will James, as will all the other wonderful moderators I know are watching today. So there's that real value in doing that. We know what goes wrong. We totally understand it. It doesn't bother us. It doesn't stress us out. We'll know what to do to support teams like Dom. So, you know, let us help you, really.
It allows your clients to concentrate on what they do best. You know, you do your job so they can do theirs. I'm totally in agreement, you know, of any kind of events where you need that kind of level of professionalism, go for it. Definitely don't even hesitate about getting somebody professional in. Definitely. Production side and MC side, definitely.
Well, we're the same team, effectively. You know, Dom and I, you know, I'm just the on-camera version of Dom, and slightly less hairy just today. Not usually, but I thought I'd make the effort today.
Well, Sam, that has been amazing. You made me laugh. That has been amazing. Thank you so much. I mean, so many, like you say, we could have spoke for hours. And I know when we had our chat a few days ago, you know, there was tons and tons of things. It was just where we were going to stop and what we were going to draw a line at. So amazingly, brilliantly. Thank you. Really appreciate you coming on the show.
Oh, you're so welcome. I hope I've helped. That's all. And anyone can shout out. I'll help and do all I can to help meetings and events be great.
I think, as always, Neil, it would be really helpful if we can get a few of those tips written up, put in your wrap-up that you send out later in the day. It would be really helpful to do that. And are you doing any bonus content for the Live Hive subscribers?
Yeah, I will chat to Sam, and we will try and record a little bit of bonus exclusive content for people who subscribe to the Live Hive. So guys, if you haven't already subscribed, make sure you do, because every time we do a little bit of extra content just for you guys, and it's the only way you can see it. So, and yeah, we'll get something good from Sam. So yes,
Sam, we've got to run, but thank you very much for joining us, and I very much hope to see you down here soon. I know you come fairly close to us at some point, so get down.
Yeah, I'm heading down because I love that part of the world. I just come down for the day anyway, Dom, just because it'd be great to see you.
Come out, just come hang out here. I'll show you my ring light.
Why not? There is an offer I cannot say no to. Ladies and gentlemen, you heard this here first. Keep safe, everybody, and thanks so much for having me on. And yeah, I miss you all, and anyone who wants to have a Zoom offie, I'm always around. So take care.
Thanks. Right, Dom, I know we've got to be quite quick. Have you got time to show the slide of what's coming up on the show in the next couple of weeks?
You've caught me out. No, I actually didn't see it week. My apologies.
I'll quickly say. So next week, the fabulous Josh King from EMC3 on the show to talk about again about online events and how they've transitioned their company from kind of doing big high profile, in real life events to having to do them on virtual using Hopin and other platforms are available. The week after, we've got the wonderful, I'm delighted to have Karen McPhee on from Visit Britain. So we're catching up with Karen about everything that's going on and what the future looks like. And then we've got, I think he's actually watching in the chat room, Jack Saywood from Saywood Marketing and Events, talking to us about the importance of a good phone book. And I know what he's going to talk about, so that's going to be a really good chat about all things events. And Jack's a super positive person, so that'll be really good fun as well. So yeah, lots coming up. As always, you can get involved with the show. You can sponsor a show. You can send us in some ideas for people to be on the show as well. Isn't that right, Dom?
Absolutely. We need more ideas, and not because we need ideas in the fact that we're short. We just want to make sure that we keep these sessions relevant, engaging, entertaining, and that we're actually providing some value to people who are watching. Neil and I don't do this just because we love it, although we do, but we actually do it because we want to help. So if you've got ideas for shows, if you've got an idea for a show you want to present on a show, then please get in touch with Neil at thedelegatewranglers.com. He looks after all of the content, and it's really important that we continue to provide value as best we can. And you can, it's a great thing to be a part of. We get lots of comments from people.
Yeah, absolutely. So anyway, guys, have a great week. Thank you once again to Sam and you, Dom, for everything this week. Really, really enjoyed it. Really informative, fab show.
Really enjoyed that one. And Sam knows her stuff, and you can see from the comments that there is a lot of love. So Sam, thank you very much once again. Neil, I think we need to disappear. We are back next week. I can't remember when we're doing because we've got
Monday next week. Look out for the
Monday 1:30 next week with who again, Neil?
With Josh King.
Josh King, that's it. So we will see you next Monday 1:30. Look out for Neil's wrap up later on. It will have all of the information with tips, guidelines from Sam, and a little bit more information that we haven't covered today. In the meantime, thank you very much for watching. We will see you 1:30 next week. It's been our pleasure. Goodbye from me.
See you later.